you. Okay, if you can join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if you can remain standing, please, and join us in a moment of silence to honor the life of Thomas Bauer. Okay, thank you. First up for us tonight is the superintendent's report. This is a budget workshop. So we have a presentation for you.
So tonight we're going to go begin the budget process. We're in the process of doing the 2020-2021 school budget. Believe it or not, that time has come. So we are just starting the season. While in business office we've been working on this for about 2 months now, but we're now at the point where more and more information is starting to come in, and we're able to start building the actual projections out for the new school year, as well as update some information as to where we stand right now in the 2019-20 school year. So that's what we're going to do through this presentation, is kind of just give a broad overview of where we stand fiscally this school year, as well as the process as we move on into the 2020-2021 budget. So the expenditure status right now for this current school year that we're operating in, we had stopped spending back in November on any non-essential items. So things that we're still allowing to process through are some technology needs, athletics, graduation ceremonies, some trainings that we know are occurring. So we tried to get all of that encumbered, set aside monies in place so that we can do some accurate projections as we move forward to close out the school year. We do anticipate some savings. All the numbers at this point in time that we're talking about are as of December 31st, 2019. We do these projections at the end of each month once we finish all the payrolls for the month and close out our books so that we can keep track of what's going on. We are seeing our health insurance premiums coming in a little bit less than budgeted. We did have a little savings in there with the new rates. Our band sale that we did back in August, we had a favorable outcome in that because we did have an increase in our Moody's rating. So our interest rates on that was a little bit lower. We had a premium sale on that, so that came into a positive for the district. Our workers' compensation expense are lower than anticipated. We've had some good programs in place trying to lower that cost overall for the district. And our utilities expense are coming in lower than budget. We luckily have had a somewhat warm winter. We do have a little bit more time to go on that, so we are hopeful that we can keep track with that expense. Our fund balances, as I said, are completed monthly, and we'll continue to do this and update this throughout the budget process. The revenue side, we are seeing a little bit of a struggle on the revenue side. We, as many people know, we have a very reputable special education program here in the district where some districts tuition their students to us. And unfortunately, we have had some changes occur from when we adopted the budget back in April through December. We've had children move out of district, their home districts take them back in, or another placement was suitable for that child. So we are seeing a decline in revenue on that particular area. Our tuition with East Moriches, the state sets that rate for us, and that rate came in a little bit less than what we actually projected. We did project a decrease in that rate, however, it came in lower than what we had anticipated. We also do have our enrollment is slightly down from the East Moriches students than what we had originally projected back in April. And again, because of the Moody's rating upgrade, we did see an increase in revenue though, so that is offsetting a little bit of the expenses that we're revenues that we're losing. So the fund balance projection, it's like I said before, it's a snapshot in time. It's where do we stand as of December, and then from there we project and we estimate based on past year's spending experiences, what do we know at this point in time, and what do we anticipate to spend up until June 30th. Right now, at this time, it's early in the game. We're 5 months into the school year. Our numbers are very conservative. We anticipate spending all of buildings and grounds. We anticipate a cold winter, a lot of plowing, a lot of heat usage. So we have to say we're going to fully spend that budget. However, fortunately, year after year, we do not. So we do know we may be able to grab a little bit more savings in those as we move on through the process of projecting fund balance out. The special education costs right now, they're based on current enrollment, current tuition rates that we're paying for other placements. And again, it's what we know as of this point in time. Those numbers could swing any which way. And our tuition revenue is based on the current enrollment. Tuition students come and go on a monthly basis almost. So those numbers are constantly changing and constantly being watched to make sure our revenue hits our target point. The goal of the board and administration is to have our undesignated fund balance hit between 3.5% and 4%. The undesignated fund balance is that money, additional savings we can have that's not allocated to anything specific, and it's allowed to be 4% of your next year's spending budget. So right now at this point in time, we don't know our next year's spending budget. We are developing that. So our fund balance can be 4% of that unknown number. So as we start working through the budget process and working through this fund balance projection, we'll start to get a better idea of where we will land. We do not anticipate, based on these changes happening, that we will hit the 4%, but our goal is to try to get within that range of 3.5%. So as we continue to move through these next few months and update these projections, we will be sure to keep the board apprised on that information. So this is a fund balance projection. This is what it looks like. This shows what we started the year off with. The difference in revenues, you can see there's a tuition shortage of about $630,000. Our expenditures, we do have about 1.4 million savings. We're spending about 97% of our budget. And then the appropriated fund balance, you'll see there is $1 million. This year it's 1.1 million. However, the board's goal is to reduce that within the next few years down to 800,000. And the goal of that is by $100,000 every year. So it's reflected here as 1 million because that becomes what's allocated to next year's budget. So right now that number is not being touched. Like I said before, we're not hitting 4%. So that 4% is what is seeing the effect of the shortage in the revenue overall. The controller, if you are following Dr. Massara out on Twitter, if you are checking up on our website, you have seen that the controller has released the fiscal stress scores as well as environmental scores. It is a public document out on the New York State Controller's website. We have not received any designation. There's no designation susceptible to stress in fiscal stress and moderate. We have not been deemed in stress, which is great. However, again, we are moderating and trying to find if we're going to land in that area of stress. Anything can change that number, anything can change that category. Anything 0 to 25 is the point system, you remain non-susceptible. We could fall into that susceptible category if we don't hit fund balance to where it should be, if our cash flow at the end of the year is slightly lower than what it was last year. Those are numbers that could affect where you land in fiscal stress. So we are watching it closely and plugging in the numbers on a monthly basis as we go through the fund balance projections to see where we land. At this point in time, we don't anticipate being susceptible to stress.
And that's given the lack of tuition that those bad guys, if you will, that
Correct.
we still believe that with a reduced undesignated reserve, we will not even move out of the undesignated category.
Our number will go up, where I think we had only 10 points. We may teeter around 20 points, but I don't believe we'll hit that 25 mark. The only other category that could put us over the end, like I said, is cash. This year we did a lesser of a TAN borrowing because we borrowed from ourselves, used our own reserve money to lower the TAN interest payments that we usually would receive on that. So that could slightly have an effect. And as a result of less revenue is now resulting in a little bit less cash at the end of the year. So those two things combined is what could teeter us between the 20 and 25%. So that's what we're watching now as we're doing cash flow projections every month, as well as doing fund balance projections. We'll continue to plug it into the worksheet to see where we are.
Yeah, I'd like to, it's not in the middle of this presentation, obviously, but I'd like to talk like tonight at some point around what actions we can take now to better ensure that we don't teeter and that we're in the right spot, because if we teeter and we teeter the wrong direction, I feel like we're in a really bad spot. But I don't mean to interrupt your thing.
No, that's fine. And those are things, like I said, we've already cut off spending. We are watching it closely. Dr. Massara and I are meeting now that we're in the budget process on a weekly basis to go over these type of things and continually trying to apprise him of any significant changes that are occurring on the budget.
And I think, all the projections that we're doing on the expense and the revenue side are the most conservative estimates we could possibly be using at this point, because we certainly don't want to come, we don't want to end up in a place this is worst case scenario we present.
We don't want to tell you we'll be at 4% and land at 2%. So we'd rather tell you we're going to be in that 3% range, and we're hopeful and we are optimistic that we will end up better than what we're telling you now. So this is now coming into the 2020-2021 budget. This is our calendar. The board adopted this calendar. It is up on the website. These are the dates of the budget workshops, and these are the topics that we will be discussing throughout. All the presentations as well will be posted up in the business office page for everybody to view if you can't make a meeting, as well as in our live stream, so you can always go back to a board meeting to see what the presentation was. So the development of budget, it started, like I said, back in November. However, what we do use as our initial guideline is the board goals. The board goal is to have a tax compliant budget that is using the property tax cap formula and making sure we stay within that. Our budget to budget increase to be no more than 2%, and that 2% should include 0.25% of program growth. We are always looking to see how we can better enhance our programs and offer more to the children. And our applied fund balance, as I mentioned before, is to be reduced by $100,000. Our current year projections and prior year actuals are the baseline for creating the new school year budget. So we basically do a rollover budget. We take what we had last year, roll into the new year, and just start updating those numbers, maybe taking some things out, adding some new things in based on what we know the needs are for the upcoming year. We work together as an administrative team, not just here in district office, but with the building level administration to get a full understanding of what everybody needs. We hold staffing meetings frequently. We're constantly looking at the expenditures, comparing prior year trends in order to make sure we are getting the right information into that budget. The board has committees that are going to start reporting back to the board on some suggestions for next year as well, and that's other items that we'll be taking into consideration as we go through the process. So the expenditures, the budget's broken out to 3 components: administrative, capital, and program. Administrative is basically everything that does not directly affect a student. Program is everything that's directly affecting those students. So your program, you're looking at all your teachers, their textbooks, the workbooks, any other field trips, those type of things are direct expenditures to the students. Administration would be your administrators, clerical support, some of our insurance expenses, those overhead costs that we have to run the operation of a school. Your capital is the third portion, which is all of our buildings and grounds, as well as our debt service that we have on the books. Some major cost drivers that we see every year is our salaries and benefits. That's our highest cost. Our BOCES expenditures, our students with special needs, as well as our transportation. Those are 4 huge cost drivers that we try to make sure we can get as close to accurate as possible going into the new year. So our school budget has to balance. Our revenues have to equal expenditures. You can see the breakdown of how our revenues are driving. Property taxes are 55% of this budget, and those are all capped with the 2% tax cap law. So we will go through that process in February. State aid is 30%. Our tuition revenue that we receive on some of our 811 programs, as well as our East Mauritius tuition and our Native American tuition, makes up 12%. And then the other is interest, some miscellaneous refunds that we tend to receive each year is only about 3%. So again, we try as hard as possible to make sure that our expenditures match our revenues and we can stay within that property tax by doing so. So this is just a little bit of a timeline as we move forward. I know there's been some questions as to, we want so much information right now, but we just don't have it just yet. We're really early in the process. So this month, we actually already received the governor's proposal on state aid, which did have a 2.8% increase from his proposal to his new proposal, which is a good thing. We saw about $300,000 additional foundation aid in his restructuring of the formulas. That additional money we'll then see in April being finalized. So that's a little bit in limbo, but right now on the budget, we're using the state aid proposal from the governor. Our tax cap estimate is usually complete by now because CPI comes out mid-January. However, just last week, Taxation Department finally implemented the capital BOCES exclusion that was accepted by the governor back in 2015. It took them 4 years to finally implement that into the tax cap formula. but there's no guidance, which is very typical of SCD. The controller's office is, yes, you can go do this, but we don't know how you're going to do it yet. So we are anxiously awaiting guidance on that because we're going to have to rework the tax cap number for the current school year in order to estimate out the next school year's number. As per a webinar I just did this morning, there is still no information out. We're hoping within the next week or two, because we do have to report the tax cap number to the controller's office by March 1st. And then again, our health insurance premiums. We have received our health insurance rates for the current school year, current calendar year, but that's only 6 months of our next school year. So we have to estimate out the balance of the year based on trend with health insurance. So in February is when we should receive our numbers from East Mauritius of how many students have chosen to come here to St. Mauritius, and we'll finalize the tax cap number. In March, we start getting our BOCES budget finalized from BOCES. Our staffing gets finalized. Our projected enrollment will start coming a little bit near to what we anticipate. Just hearing yesterday from BOCES, we are doing a long-range study plan, and by Friday we should have a draft of that plan, which will help us start guiding some of these decisions going forward. As well as the other benefit rates, our health rates, dental rates, vision rates that we have for employees, we'll start receiving those in March. And then in April 15th, I believe, is our adoption date. April 1st, we receive the final state aid run from the legislation, as well as we start finalizing all budget items so that the board can adopt a timely budget. So in summary, like I said, the budget begins in the fall. We continue through April when the adoption occurs. It's just a roadmap for us to work with throughout the school year. It's changing constantly. As you see from the beginning of this presentation, our fund balance numbers are reflecting that. We adopted a budget back in April. When we come into December of the current fiscal year, those numbers have changed significantly based on simple people moving in and out of the district, needs of students. So we do our best to make sure we can hone in on these numbers as best as possible so we can maintain fiscal stability and offer the best programs for the students. Questions from the board?
I would like to talk about it all, but we can do it separately if we want to do that.
We good?
Thanks, Gary.
Yeah. Thank you, Gary. Very informative, thank you.
Yeah. Good, yeah.
All right, that brings us to any questions or comments regarding tonight's agenda only. Motion to adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of January 15, 2020. Motion second. Second. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. You're up, Pat.
Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of the schools, the Board of Education accepts the following donation.
Motion
Motion.
second.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Be it resolved, a motion to approve the consent agenda. Asterisk, agenda items are consent agenda items. Consent agenda items are approved via a single vote unless they are removed from being a consent item prior to the vote.
Motion second. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Yes, we did. So the item 18 is one of the items that is one of our favorite items. It's unusual to have teachers up for tenure generally mid-year. Typically that's something that happens. They get hired in September, they work a year, and then after 4 years, teachers are awarded tenure. However, this year we have 2 teachers that were up for tenure mid-year, and those are Renee DeMeo-Bridgewood and Maggie Durio. Renee is an art teacher in our middle school, and I can say that if anyone went to Candy Cane Lane, that was her brainchild, and it was absolutely a wonderful experience for our entire community, and just just the tip of the iceberg of the kinds of things that Renee does, in my opinion, to go above and beyond just those regular duties, and it's an absolute gem, and somebody that we certainly are very lucky to have in our district. Same thing with Maggie as an elementary music teacher, somebody who just really brings such life into the building and builds a passion for music and the arts. if anybody had a chance to go to Into the Woods and see the middle school children perform last weekend, I think it was, again, a testament to the kind of thing that we're looking for in our teachers, that will go above and beyond to bring opportunities to kids. And so we've got two just fantastic candidates. I am going to ask Dennis maybe if you could speak a little bit about Maggie, and then Mr. Ritchie to speak a little bit about Maggie, and then Mr. Bode, if you could speak a little bit about Maggie, that would be wonderful.
So thank you all for coming out tonight, and for Maggie's entourage that she brought with her. You know, so I've known Maggie my whole time here, and she hasn't been here much longer than me. So it's interesting that the two of us are kind of like going through this process together, so it's been fun. Having a teacher like Maggie in the building helps us in so many different ways. It's so much more than just having another educator in the classroom. She really is one of those people that wants to go the extra mile, and if anybody's been around any of our music educators, they have that team atmosphere. It is literally, they are one and the same. So when you fight against one of them, you're fighting against all of them. They've got each other's back, which is amazing, because not only is that something that kind of galvanizes the group, but it really feels like that family atmosphere. So when one of them is trying to take on some kind of a cumbersome task, like, I don't know, creating a middle school drama club from scratch, Maggie is willing to take that task on full force, because she knows she has the backing of her team, and she's become part of that team. So it really is amazing not only to just see her kind of evolve as a teacher and take on things like, I don't know if any of you have ever learned how to play the ukulele in elementary school, but when you have a teacher that's willing to kind of go the extra mile and challenge herself in order to challenge the students, it's really a special thing. So I personally enthusiastically recommend Maggie for tenure, and I think that we have the support of the district as well to make sure that, you know, she not only is going to support our kids now, but definitely for the rest of her career. So, thank you.
If I could just add to just quickly about Maggie, there's no it's no coincidence that our music program at the middle school and high school, both with Ms. Basil and Maggie, has just skyrocketed over the last few years as they've been in our district. So I just want to commend you for that. So Renee, where is she? So the first thing I would tell you about Renee is she's just a good person. She has a heart of gold. She cares about the world around us. She cares about humanity. And that is probably the best thing you could ever want for your children, you know, going through with a teacher. She's done so much. She is primarily a middle school teacher, but she has also taught and teaches at the high school level. She's taught our highest level classes of art at the high school level, and she's done it magnificently. She's built the curriculum stronger in her presence from day one. She is a communicator. She highlights kids all the time with their parents. She reaches out to the kids and the parents. She pushes them to higher levels in competitions, and is generally all over the place doing great things with our kids all the time. I mean, she is an absolute star. But I'll go back to what I said originally, which is she's a good person. And that is probably the most critical thing we could have in education, is good people in our rooms working with kids. She'll never do anything that will ever be anything but excellent for our kids, and I'm truly, truly sure of that. So I enthusiastically as well recommend her for tenure to the Board of Education.
And so that, unfortunately, principals and directors aren't allowed to do that. Make recommendations, it has to come from me. So I get to do the recommendation.
Well, we really like
the recommendation has to come from the superintendent, and I enthusiastically. So perhaps we can move on.
Yeah, the packets too.
Sure.
Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the tenure appointments of the following individuals: Renee DeMayo Bridgewood and Margaret Dior.
Motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
And now we have many more, a whole generation of kids are going to benefit from being inspired by, yes, Red, can you come up? Oh, so. Some Twitter opportunities. Wait, no, come on. You both. Thank you so much. Congratulations, ladies, and we will be having a, every year we have a 10-year celebration towards the end of the year, so we will invite your entourage back. A cake and a bigger celebration towards the end of the year as well, when we recognize all our 10-year teachers for the year. So thank you all for being for that. Congratulations. Great job.
Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education conducts a second reading of the following policies.
Motion? Second?
Second.
All in favor? Yes. Motion carries unanimously. That brings us to the public questions and comments from the community. No? Okay. Next Board of Ed meeting will be on February 12th, 2020 at 7:30 p.m. at the district office. Motion to adjourn into executive session for...
No, wait, we have... Yeah, hold on one second. I just thought it was for that section. I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Sorry if I wasn't clear. No, these are, it's open forum now. If you have any questions or comments.
Yeah, I'd like to say something. I'm
Sure.
here to support Coach Paul. I just wanted to, I wrote a letter to the superintendent yesterday, and Paul has really impacted our family, so if you don't mind, I'm just going to read the email.
Actually, if you could come forward,
Yeah,
just
sure.
sign in, you could just put your name down.
Yeah, sure.
And then state your name for the record. Thank you so much.
My name is Fred Wiegand, and I'm writing this letter to let you know how much Coach Paul has done for my family and me. We have 3 children in the Center Orchard School District. All 3, at one time or another, have been involved with sports, and never have we been more touched by a coach than we are when our son Cole was lucky enough to get Coach Paul for NY Osaka. Cole is our amazing 14-year-old with special needs. Cole was born with Down syndrome, but that has not stopped him from engaging in typical childhood activities and sports at a young age. As Cole got older, we knew it would be a challenge for him to keep up with his peers as the sports became more competitive. The first time I spoke with Danielle and Paul about Cole playing on their team, I expressed my concerns and let them know that we would not mind if Cole didn't receive as much playing time as other kids on the team. I let them know that Cole just being with typical children helps him a great deal. They both made me feel incredibly comfortable about Cole's role on their team, and they were very excited to work with him. During his first season with Paul, Cole grew as a player, learned patience, and even scored a goal. Do you remember that? Yeah. Cole's dedication and hard work with our son and the entire team paid off so much that Cole was now able to keep up with his peers. After the season ended, me and my wife thought Cole's soccer days were over, but Paul insisted he should play on the middle school team. He offered to be Cole's one-on-one aide every day at practice, be with him on the bus for away games, and then wait with him until he was able to be picked up after school. I coach my son's baseball team, and it's hard enough to do it for one of your kids, to work all day, and then have to go and coach them. But here was Paul putting in 2 to 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, so my son could be a part of the school soccer team with his peers. Every day I picked up Cole from practice, he was excited to tell me how he was now able to run the perimeter by himself, keep up with the team. Paul found the balance to push Cole to his potential and teach him hard work pays off. Cole has been appointed many aides and specialists due to his condition, but none of them have made the impact that Coach Paul has made on our son. He is one of the best coaches I've ever seen, and we've been so lucky to have him in our lives. Losing Paul as a coach would be a huge loss for our community. And I just want to say something, because I talk to you all the time, but I never tell you, whatever happens here, never change what you're doing, because it's amazing and it's affecting all our kids in a positive way. Thank you.
questions, comments?
Are we deciding who's going to be coaching in the spring? Because I thought that was part of the agenda tonight. Are you guys going to discuss that at all, or at least let us know?
That's going to be on the February 12th agenda. We're going to be doing Old Spring coaches.
Curious how many people support him. How many are here? Want to raise your hand?
We got to sign in if we're going to talk?
Yes, please.
Yeah, stand up.
Stand up.
Let's just see. Yeah.
Give the hand to Coach Paul, too.
I didn't bring a copy of my letter that I sent, but as he stated, Paul is one of the coaches that gives extra time, not just for people that he's coaching, but for other kids. In my letter, I told you about there's a boy in MIO, just started playing, doesn't really have skill, doesn't know how to play. Paul's going down on his own time, early in the morning, to work with this kid one-on-one so he doesn't get pushed aside. He does that all the time with all of his teams. I've known him since my niece started playing lacrosse 11 years ago. My oldest daughter, same thing. She had trouble playing. She didn't like the team she was on. He made special arrangements for her to play. He does that with his team, and if you guys don't have him coach the school team, you're hurting the whole program completely. He built this program to where it is now, and if you take him out, I don't know where the program's going to go after that. That's it.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kayla Mitchell. I'm a junior attending St. Emeritus High School, who's been a part of the high school lacrosse program since the 7th grade. In 7th grade, I was so excited to finally be eligible to try out for JV and varsity sports, and I quickly took that opportunity by trying out for JV lacrosse that season. At this time, the varsity program was under the leadership of a different coach, and the JV program was led by Jeff Mishler, who is now the assistant varsity coach. Coach Mishler has always attempted to make the environment a positive space. However, having the varsity program under the leadership of a different coach, the program was not able to flourish. The environment and older players were extremely intimidating, and the thought of playing with them was extremely daunting. As soon as Mr. Ramundi took over the coaching position, he quickly made it a top priority to not only make sure his players were in a comfortable space, but made unifying the program one as well. With Coach Paul, we have seen a huge increase in opportunities made for players. By openly offering his time, by having winter workouts and training in the off-season, he has made it possible for players with the desire to try out for the team the chance to play in a non-intimidating environment, learning many different skills along the way. He has also made team bonding a priority within the program by organizing and encouraging different fundraising activities, such as having our Easter Bunny fundraiser that we did this year, going to an escape room as a team, and having pasta parties as well. This gives the players who don't speak on a daily basis the opportunity to speak together. With a unified team comes more success. The program, for the first time in many years, was able to make the playoffs under the leadership of Coach Paul. By allowing Mr. Ramundi to continue his coaching career here at St. Emeritus, accompanied by the upcoming talent we see in the younger grades, we are guaranteed a winning season. Coach Paul is constantly looking at the latest and greatest when it comes to the lacrosse world by keeping our ideology and drills updated. He oversees the coaching at the middle school and JV levels too in an attempt to unify the program and keep everyone on the same page. Paul Ramundi is truly one of the most devoted, passionate coaches St. Emeritus has to offer. The amount of love he has for the game of lacrosse, the team, and the school is incomparable to that of many other coaches here. Paul Ramundi should be allowed to continue coaching here at St. Emeritus because of his constant devotion to the program, the proven progress the team has made on and off the field, and the knowledge he's able to give to generations to come. And I would just like to say, me personally as a player, he's impacted my life greatly, and by having him not coach here, you're just losing someone that has like such a great amount of passion and love towards the game and would give anything to see his players succeed. So.
Thank you. Anyone? Thank you very much. I do really appreciate you coming out and sharing your heartwarming stories with us and views. So we appreciate that very much. The next Board of Ed meeting will be February 12th, 2020 at 7:30 PM at District Office. Motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of collective negotiations under the Taylor law with the CMTA and other matters, the disclosure of which would result in an unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. Motion second. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.